Good afternoon, everybody. I am Indranath, and we start this advanced instructional course on commutative algebra. This is an NCM program, and it will, as you can see, the slide actually clearly shows that it's from 2nd January to 2nd May. And as you know that Saturdays are the lecture days and Sundays are the tutorial days. I just request Professor J.K. Verma to say a few words and then introduce Professor Patil so that he can start.
Thank you, Indranath. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. So welcome to the advanced instructional course. In fact, this is the first online course in advanced instructional schools of NCM. It is an experiment, and we have to give a detailed feedback to NCM whether such programs are really useful. Planned this program thanks to Indranath. He has taken a lot of initiative in getting us organized, and there is a very good response from many students and many faculty members. We hope that this medium will also enable us to learn some good algebra. We are going to continue for the whole semester. It is just like a course. We are going to meet in the weekends because you may be busy during the week with many other meetings and other courses. So I hope that we will have 100% attendance during the next 4 months. The course is very interesting, and I'm sure you will enjoy this. It will become a learning experience if all of us discuss the problem sets and try to understand and contemplate over the lectures. All right, so I welcome everybody, and we hope we will have a good time during this course. And the lectures will be given by Professor Dilip Patil from IISc Bangalore and Indranath Sen Gupta. These lectures will assume substantial part of Atiyah MacDonald, and I'm pretty sure you all know that much. And we will take off from last 2 chapters and then go up to certain point, and we believe that we would have covered the essential parts of commutative algebra that every research scholar needs to know. So over to you, Indranath.
Thank you, Professor JKV. So I think, as you know that it's already 2:38, so we don't want to waste time. It's our first speaker, the first speaker of this course is Professor Dilip Patil from IISc Bangalore.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Professor JKV for helping us with lot of technical stuff to arrange this course. And secondly, I also want to help Indranath for lot of arrangements with their technical things and so on. And of course, I also want to thank my TA Kriti for helping me some technical things. And let us start now. So I am not sure because it's a mixed audience. So the first lecture some of you may find it elementary or so, but that give me a feedback after the lecture. So as everybody knows that this course is the first one in this format. So now let me start my slides. All right. So first of all, this course is very demanding for participants as well as TAs and instructors. Soon you will see why I am saying so. On each Sunday evening, tutorial sheet for the next Sunday tutorials will be uploaded. And these exercises will be done on the next Sunday. For this, active participation in tutorials is expected from participants. And in this respect, some more instructions you may get from TAs. And each, there will be 3 TAs for each one of us. So for these lectures, Kriti will be the tutor for this. So let me start now. So as you know, the two branches, namely geometry and number theory, when they became more and more preciser and demanding, commutative algebra is needed in both the fields. What is now known as modern algebraic geometry and also algebraic number theory. So commutative algebra has become inevitable for both these fields. And of course, commutative algebra also needs some homological methods. So in this course, we will also have homological methods. So typical names which will appear in this field are Hilbert, Dedekind, Noether, Krull, Serre, Grothendieck, Zariski, Cohen, Samuel, etc. I will begin with recalling elementary fundamental notions of commutative algebra and modern algebraic geometry. And classical algebraic geometry notions will be reviewed in the first tutorial tomorrow by Kriti. So you will see, and also already we have uploaded supplement 0. All these are in the supplement. I have tried to write precisely definitions and statement that we will need. Most of it you might be knowing, probably you may not know in this format. All right, so let us start. So in this course, we will consider only commutative rings with unit element and ring homomorphism such that unit element will be mapped onto unit element. So for this, for example, 2Z will not be commutative ring for us because 2Z will not have unit element. So mostly the ring we will consider, they will also be assumed to be Noetherian. And as Professor JKV said that we are going to assume about 7 chapters of T.M. MacDonald. But time to time, we will keep recalling at least the definitions and some things without proof maybe. So Noetherian means the set of ideals satisfied ascending chain condition. Or equivalently, every ideal is finitely generated. So now, in the few minutes, I am going to write down some definitions and some statements. And I would like to insist on this language, which is now formal language for modern algebraic geometry, which will also involve a little bit geometric argument and not only pure commutative algebra. That is why I am spending a few minutes today on this aspect. So recall that a prime ideal P of A is a prime ideal if the residue class ring A by P is an integral domain. And note that integral domains are not zero. Therefore, prime ideals are non-unit ideals because the residue class ring is non-zero. Similarly, recall that an ideal M is called maximal if and only if the residue field. It's called maximal because it's a maximal in the set of all ideals of A with respect to the inclusion order. So that is equivalent to saying the residue class ring is a field. And since fields are integral domains, every maximal ideal is a prime ideal. So the set of all prime ideals in A denoted by spec A and is called the prime spectrum of A. Prime is attached because the elements are prime ideals. And spectrum is actually this notion comes from functional analysis, operator theory. Sometimes when I have some more things, I will write some example where it will reveal that why is it called spectrum. All right, the set of all maximal ideals is denoted by SPMA, and I will keep calling it a maximal spectrum of A. Some people also call it max A, but I avoid it because it might confuse with the maximum. All right, so as we noted, maximal ideals are prime ideal, therefore this maximal spectrum is a subset of the prime spectrum. Moreover, if a non-zero ring, then we know from Cool's theorem that there are maximal ideals, so that means the maximal spectrum is non-empty. So therefore, in particular, the spectrum is non-empty. So when our ring is non-zero, we have this non-empty set. And we are going to define a topology on this, on the spectrum. And with this topology, the spectrum, I will also drop sometimes prime in that spectrum, acquires a first geometric structure, which is completely determined by the algebraic properties of the ring. And as you will see in the following pages. So for an element X of the spectrum, see this X is an element in the spectrum when I want to think it is a topological space. So when I want to think it's an ideal, or you want to use the properties of the ideals, prime ideals, etc., then I will denote it by Px. Just to remember, this X is a point in a topological space, and this Px is prime ideal. All right. So I will also fix the following notation for a subset E of the ring A. All those points X in prime spectrum which contain this given subset E. So that is V of E, and D of E the complement of V of E in the spectrum. So for elements F1 to Fm in A, V of F1 to Fm is by definition V of this set, and D of this is equal to D of this set. You might have noticed from my writing that I have gone through a very disciplined teachers, which didn't allow me to write anything loose or which is undefined. So if you are not used to this, you might be getting bored, but I will assure you in the long run it pays a lot. All right. So if F is an element in A, then V of F is all those points in the spectrum such that F belongs to that prime ideal Px. And DF is those X where F doesn't belong. So, and also I will denote this sum F in EAF or this angle bracket C, this denote the ideal generated by A in the ideal generated in A by the set E. I would prefer the first notation because it is more self-explanatory. This one, there is no ring here. So I would, my writing, I would prefer this, but sometimes one makes short form and this when there is no confusion. So V of E is, it's clear that V of E is V of the ideal generated by this F's in E. Similarly, D of E. The subset V is often called a zero set of E. Now I want to explain why is it called a zero set of E. So this notation is due to Grothendieck. And this notation will help us to check that they form closed sets in a topological space. So for X in the spectrum, kappa X denote the quotient field of the integral domain A by Px. And this is also called the residue field at the point X. And we have these natural maps. The first one is a natural canonical surjection, And the second one is the canonical injection. This is the quotient field of this integral domain. So for f in A, f of fx, this denotes the image of f under this composition. Here, also remember this fx is just a notation for the image of f in kx, kappa x. So what does this mean? So x belong to V of E will now equivalent to saying that the image of,
Excuse me.
yes,
Sir, can the students unmute and ask if they have a difficulty, or do you prefer to take the questions later on?
no, you can ask, anybody can interrupt me and ask anytime.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
So x in V of E will mean that f of, I'll keep calling it f of x. F of x is 0 for all f in E, and the 0 is in kx. That means f belong to px. So one gets a feeling that it's a 0 because of this notation. Another thing is, what I wanted to say, yes. I will keep denoting elements of the ring by f, g, etc., small f, g, etc. That is because eventually I want to think of polynomials. And that is the reason I chose this f, g, etc., the choice of the letters, element which I denote from it. All right. The subsets V of E are also called affine algebraic subsets of the.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, why did you choose this particular notation like f of x? I mean, we use this notation for functions. So is there any connection?
See, I want to feel like that it's a 0, that x is a 0 of f.
Okay.
So because x belongs to V of E is equivalent to saying f of x is 0 for all f in E.
Okay.
And this 0, the image is 0 in kappa x means precisely means that f belongs to that px. That is because if the image is 0 here, this map is injective, so it's already 0 here. So that means that f goes to that ideal px. That is the reason. All right. So now these algebraic sets, subsets of spectrum, satisfy the following properties. I will be a little bit faster here. I have not checked the details here. So V of the union is equal to the intersection, and this one will come from this immediately by taking the complements. So in particular, V of finitely many elements is the intersection, and D is the union. So now, property 2 is V of the product ideal is V of the intersection ideals, which is also V of the union, V of A union V of B. This property, for example, if you want to check, it is trivial if you use the notation, because if this ideal A times B is generated by all products, polynomial F in ideal A, not polynomial, an element F in ideal A, element G in the ideal B. So this is these ideals generated by the products like that. And if I want to check some X is in this, I have to check that the product vanishes if it is in the both of them. So that is very easy, because we have to use the fact that if a product of elements in the field is 0, then one of them is 0 at least. So therefore this. And the others are also trivial like this if you use the notation very easily. You may be used to checking more algebraically, but in this few minutes, I am going to give many examples that it is easier to think most often geometrically than algebra. But the proofs, precise proofs, are written by using algebra. And this doesn't happen only in this field, but every field it happens, even in subjects like calculus, differentiable manifolds, and so on. The algebra makes the things more preciser, and geometry gives the intuition. That is the whole philosophy. All right. So the above property shows that the subsets, as E varies in the subsets of A, they are closed sets for a topology on the spectrum, and these subsets are the open sets. This topology is called the Zariski topology on the spectrum. Zariski was the first to define this topology on the spectrum, therefore it is. The maximal spectrum now will have induced topology from the spectrum because it is a subset. All right. So now the assignments A going to spectrum, a ring assigned to the spectrum of that ring. This is a covariant functor. Also, we will be using homological algebra language slowly so that you get used to it, and the lectures by Indranath will concentrate more on the homological methods. So what is the map? So you have to, whenever you have a ring homomorphism, then you have to associate a map between the spectrums, and contravariant meaning it should change the direction of the arrow. So if you have a ring homomorphism, and remember 1 goes to 1 is very, very important. So I have, with my experience, many students keep asking me questions which either ring doesn't have identity or ring homomorphism doesn't map 1 to 1. And these questions we will not take up in this course at all. So suppose I have a y, small y, a point in the spectrum. Then phi inverse of this ideal, that is a prime ideal in A, because it is precisely the kernel of this composition map, A to B given phi, and then this is a residue class map. So this composition map precisely have the kernel this. That is because we pulled back all the elements of Py, and therefore that has to be a prime ideal, because when you go mod it, it gets injected in the integral domain. Subring of integral domain is the integral domain, therefore it is a domain, therefore it will be a prime ideal. So that gives us a map from the spectrum of B to spectrum of A, namely y going to phi inverse of Py. And you see, we should write both the things mixed. That will help us. Soon you will see an example. So for example, I want to check that this map is continuous, because we have now topology, Zariski topology on the spectrum A, Zariski topology on the spectrum B. So we have a continuous map. So I have to check that inverse image of a closed set is a closed set. So I have to check that phi star inverse of a closed set is typically like this. And I want to check it is a closed set. That means V, it must be V of somebody. Somebody should be a subset of B, because you want to close in this. Therefore, I want to check this equality. And once I check this equality is trivial, because we just applying the complements. In particular, when I apply to E equal to this singleton F, we get this, and similarly D of this. So how are you going to check this equality? So let us check that. So I have checked it here. It is only here. So suppose Y take on the left hand side. That means Y is here. That means image of Y under phi star goes inside VE. But that means what is phi star Y is by definition phi inverse of Py. But that will mean that this prime ideal has to contain this set E by definition of VFE. So E is contained here. But that means image of phi, when I apply phi to this, phi of E should be contained in phi of this. But that is phi of E inverse of Py is contained in Py. So therefore this, but this means Y belong to phi of E, because all the elements in phi of E will vanish at Y. So therefore this. So see, the same proof, if you write algebraically, you will write more lines, I think. So you should get convinced that this is indeed helpful. Okay, therefore we have checked that this map is a continuous map with respect to Zariski topology on the spectrums. To check it is a functor, we still have to check two more properties, namely, if I have two ring homomorphisms, phi and psi, and this is a composition. So we have this phi star and we have this C star. So now we have two things. One is this composition, which I have written here, and the other is I compose first, that is this, and take the star. So these two results should be same. That is the equality here. Similarly, identity star should be identity on the spectrum. And again, I will not go through this proof because otherwise I will not finish my expected material which I have written. So I have written the proof here. If you have trouble here, you can always raise a question in the either in the tutorial or you can ask me. So therefore, we have checked that the assignments A going to spectrum of A and the ring homomorphism is mapped onto this continuous map is a covariant functor from the category of rings into the category of topological spaces. So we will be playing all the time with this. And also, if you go on to more courses on modern algebraic geometry, then there will be more structure on the spectrum, which we will not deal in this course, I think. So to every ring, we have associated a geometric object, namely spectrum. Some basic properties of the spectrum are collected below, shows how some of algebraic statements about rings correspond to the topological properties of the spectrum, and conversely also. So the open sets, they form a basis of the Zariski topology on the spectrum. In particular, if X is a point in the spectrum, then there exist the sets df, where f varies in this px. For a given x, f varies in this px, they form a neighborhood basis of at x. So this is immediate from this. If we have E is a subset, then D of E is an arbitrary open set. This is the union of these DFs. All right. Oh. So now I have the equivalence. If you have A and B are ideals, so remember all my ideals I am going to denote by Gothic letters, and all my rings I will denote by capital letters A, B, C, and elements in the ring small f, g, etc. Elements are in the spectrum small x, small y, etc. and so on. So what are the equivalences? V of the ideal is containing V of the ideal B, which is equivalent to, this is not serious. This first equivalence is not serious because it's just taking the complements. The complement will reverse the inclusion, but here I have reversed the order of writing, which is equivalent to now root of B is containing root of A. This is also reversed from here. So this root is the radical of the ideal B. This is radical of the ideal A, which is everybody knows, I think. So how am I going to prove this is just seed? If V of I am proving this implies this, and we do converse. So if VA is containing VB, that means the root of ideal A is equal to. So what is the root of ideal A? That is the intersection of all P which contain A. But that is same thing as writing this. This is trivial because prime ideals which contain A and prime ideals of the residue ring are in one-to-one correspondence. Chapter 1 at T. McDonald. So this equality is trivial. And now if a prime ideal contains A, this inclusion follows from here because we are assuming this. So smaller the set, bigger the intersection. So therefore this inclusion is clear, and this is root B. So this implies this is trivial. Conversely, if we have this, And I want to check this now. So I will take a point here, X, but that means P of X contains A, but then P of X will contain also the root ideal because P is a radical ideal. P is equal to root P for any prime ideal. That's so this will contain root B by assumption, and therefore it will contain B. But that will mean that X belongs to VP. So this is trivial. So that means this V is an inclusion reversing map. All right, so I would have written there. In particular, the equality holds, if equality holds everywhere because you apply twice. So the corollary is important. So the closed sets in the spectrum corresponds uniquely to the radical ideals in A. In other words, the map, we think of V as a map from the set of radical ideals to the closed sets in the Zariski topology. This is F, Z spectrum. F is for closed sets usually used, and Z is for Zariski topology. This is the topological space. So A going to V of A. This map is inclusion reversing, we have checked, and it's bijective also. It's clear by. So now this map V is, I want to discuss, it says it's bijective, but I want to actually cook up its inverse, right? So, and also I would like to describe what is the closure of a subset of Y, subset Y of the spectrum. So this defining the inverse map will help for both. All right, so we define the map. So for any subset Y, ideal of Y is by definition intersection of all those prime ideals corresponding to the points in Y. So that is intersection of all Px, X origin. So clearly, because it's intersection of prime ideals, it's a radical ideal. Intersection of radical ideals is a radical ideal. So, for example, if we take Y to be closed set, this closed set, then what happens to IY? Let us check. Then IY is by definition all those prime ideals P which contain, which are in Y means which should contain A. So P contains A. But we have seen just above that this intersection is just the radical ideal of A. So IY is I of a closed set V of A is just a radical ideal of A. This is called formal Null-Standards. Also, it is called a Shine Null-Standards. See, Shine is like a note, or so it is. It doesn't require a big proof. But whereas if you go to classical setup, where you don't consider all prime ideals, but you consider special type of maximal ideals, then you need a proof. Not only you need a proof, but you also need a field to be algebraically closed. Here there is no field involved. So that setup, I think Kriti will describe tomorrow in the tutorials. All right, so this was for this particular closed set. If I take Y to be the spectrum, a maximal spectrum, then what is the ideal of Y? Ideal of Y is all those ideals, prime ideals corresponding to the points in Y, they are precisely the maximal ideals because this is a maximal spectrum. So as X varies in Y, an intersection of all those maximal ideals, but Y is the whole spectrum. Therefore, this is intersection of all maximal ideals in say, but this is a very special ideal. This is called the Jacobson radical of A. And I will denote Jacobson radical of A is by M suffix A. So remember this notation. So for an ideal A in A, V of A is a spectrum, whole thing. That is if and only this is trivial. This first implication is just translation of from the complement. But this is equivalent to saying ideal A has to be the nil radical of A. That is because this the whole spectrum, therefore this should be intersection of all points in spectrum, but that means all prime ideals, but this is precisely the nil radical. This is the radical of zero ideal, but this equality also follows from these equalities. The set of nilpotent elements is precisely the intersection of all prime ideals in a ring. So that you would have seen in the first chapter of Atiyah. All right, now we are ready to describe the closure. If Y is a subset of the spectrum, then the closure of Y is precisely V of the ideal of Y. Let us write the proof. This inclusion is trivial just from the definition of Y, V and I. Take any Y in Y, then that is in the intersection here. Therefore, it should contain this ideal. So this is trivial. Hence, Y is contained. Suppose now I have to prove it is a closure. That means I have to prove that it is the smallest subset which contains Y. Which smallest closed subset which contains Y. So suppose Y is containing V of A. Then I want to prove that this subset which is closed is containing V of A. So what does this mean? That means this A is contained in all points here. That means this inclusion for all. And therefore A is contained in their intersection. But that was precisely the ideal of Y. Therefore, what we checked is if Y is contained in this closed set, that A is a subset of this. But then V of this will be subset of V of A. So this already is contained here. That means this is the smallest closed set which contains Y. Therefore, it is a closure. Okay, what is the closure of the maximal spectrum? When it is the whole, that means when the maximal spectrum is dense, that is equivalent to saying the Jacobson radical equal to nil radical. This is again, it follows immediately from this. If I don't check it, please go home and check it. You have 1 week still. So when can it happen? When does it happen? It happens in some cases. So for example, ring of integers, nil radical is Jacobson radical. Or if you have A is a polynomial ring over a field, then also nil radical is Jacobson radical. Remember here, also I wanted to make one comment that if I write polynomial ring, the variables are always denoted by the capital letters, not the small letters. So, but when does this not happen? For example, if A is a power ring over a field in n variables, then the Jacobson radical is not nil radical. Nil radical is clearly 0 because this ring is an integral domain, and Jacobson radical is clearly non-zero because this is a local ring with maximal ideal generated by these variables. All right, so it may be dense, it may not be dense. In particular, what is the closure of a singleton? That is precisely V of Px. This is also immediate from the above setup. Therefore, singleton is closed if and only if this is singleton. That means there is no other prime ideal which contain this set other than Px. So that means this X corresponds to the point in a maximal spectrum. So the points in the maximal spectrums are precisely the closed points, and remaining others are not closed points. So in particular, in general, spectrum is not a T1 space. I hope everybody know what a T1 space is. T1 is named by Friche. That means given any two different points, there is a neighborhood which contains one but not the other. So that is called a T1 space. So for example, spec Z and this polynomial spectrum of the polynomial ring in n variables, they are not T1 spaces, but spec of Z mod n for n bigger than 1, they are all T1 spaces. In fact, they are all discrete. All right. Now the next comes irreducible components of the spectrum. So recall that when you have a topological space, X is called irreducible if X is non-empty and X is not a union of two proper closed subsets. Then you call a topological space is irreducible. This is more than connected. So non-empty topological space is irreducible if and only if intersection of two non-empty open sets is non-empty. This is again translated by taking the complements. Irreducible topological spaces are connected. If Y is a subset of X, then you call that Y to be irreducible in X if Y is irreducible topological space with respect to the induced topology from X. So Y is irreducible in X if and only if closure of Y is also irreducible. That is again easy to check. I leave this. In particular, if you have a point X in X, then the closure is always irreducible because singleton X is always irreducible. It's non-empty and you cannot write it as a union of any two sets. All right, so if Y is a subset of X, Y is irreducible. If Y is a closure of the singleton for some X, then that X is called a generic point of Y. For a subset, now, when we shall prove that when do Y have a generic point? So first of all, if Y has a generic point, then this equality shows that Y must be closed and Y also must be, we already started with irreducible. So if Y is a subset of the spectrum, then Y is closed and irreducible if and only Y must be closure of a singleton. That means closed irreducible subsets of a spectrum has a generic point. All right, I have written the proof here. Let us see the proof. So Y is closed, therefore Y is V of A. And what do we want to prove? We want to prove that it is V of a prime ideal. So that means we have to prove this is closed and we are assuming it is irreducible. So we have to prove that this A must be a prime A must be a prime ideal. But before I start the proof, I can assume here by replacing A by the radical of A, this V will not change. So I will assume that A is a radical ideal. So that means A is equal to root of A. Now we need to show that P is a prime ideal. So we need to show that if a product belongs to the ideal, then one of them belongs to the ideal. So if I assume both don't belong, then I should get a contradiction. So suppose both don't belong. Then look at the two ideals, bigger ideals than A. One is generated by A and F, the other is generated by A and G. Then we should check that A equal to the intersection of these two ideals. Let us check that. One inclusion is clear. This A is contained in A1 intersection A2 is clear because A is contained in both. Conversely, if I have some element here in the intersection, that H we can write because it's an element in A1 plus B1F. On the other hand, it is also equal to A2 plus B2G. But this belongs to A1 intersection A2 that we assume. Therefore, this equality. So A1, A2 are in the ideal A. B1, B2 are elements in the ring A. And now when you square it, let's see what happens. When you square it, once I use this equality and once I use this equality. So A1, B1F, A2, B2G, multiply them. You get A1, A2, A2, B1F, A1, B2G plus B1, B2FG. Now in this sum, A1, A2 belongs to the ideal A. These also belong to the ideal A because A2 is in A. These also belong to, because A1 is in the ideal A. Therefore, on the other hand, H belong there. So all of them belong except this. But so therefore, when I shift these to the other side, or here Fg belong there, that is not our assumption. Therefore, all these terms belong to the ideal A. Therefore, this side belong to the ideal A. So H square belong to the ideal A. But A was a radical ideal we were assuming. So therefore, H belong to the root of A, which is A. Therefore, we have checked this equality, and therefore V of A is equal to V of this intersection, which is the union. And this is properly contain this properly contain this, because we are assuming this ideal is, this is not there, so these are strictly bigger ideal. So therefore this is strict inclusion, and therefore we get a contradiction. Therefore we proved that if you have a closed irreducible subset in the spectrum, then it must be given by the prime ideal. And the converse is trivial. We have checked that converse is trivial. If you have a closed irreducible subset like that, then it is a closure of a singleton, therefore reducible. It is closure, therefore closed, therefore converse is trivial. Corollary?
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, is it possible to count how many generic points in a topological space in this Zariski topology?
That's what the next corollary will tell you. They are unique. So corollary says the closed irreducible subsets of the spectrum correspond to a uniquely determined points. That means I understand your question, but before I give you the very precise correct answer, you should also think. You will get the answer. Okay. Every irreducible subset. So what does this corollary says? If you have the irreducible closed subsets in the spectrum, they correspond to the points in the spectrum. So what is the association? The point in the spectrum is X, which is Px, and that goes to the closure. These are inclusion, reversing, bijective, mutually inverses to each other. That's what it means. So every irreducible closed subset in the spectrum have a unique generic point. Spectrum is irreducible if and only if the nil radical is a prime ideal. Proof? Just look at the spectrum. This is V of the nil radical. So if it is irreducible, it's a closed set, it's a whole set, closed set. Therefore, this inside thing should be prime ideal. That's what I have written. When is the maximal spectrum irreducible? When the Jacobson radical is a prime ideal. So proof, the closure of this is V of the Jacobson radical. If this is irreducible, then this is closed and irreducible. Closure of irreducible is irreducible, therefore this is irreducible close, and it is V of this, therefore this inside one is a prime ideal. All right. So let's continue a little bit more. Now, what are the irreducible components? So if you have a topological space, I don't know whether I am going, what is the time? Okay.
So it's 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes to what?
But you 5 more minutes to 3:30.
Okay.
But you can go on and
okay, fine.
For 10-12 more minutes.
Fine. Irreducible component of X is a maximal irreducible subset of X with respect to the natural inclusion. So irreducible components of X are closed because they are maximal, and closure of irreducible is irreducible. And every irreducible subset Y of X is contained in an irreducible component of X. In particular, irreducible components exist. So this is a simple application of Zorn's lemma to the ordered set. Which ordered set? Look at all Z's. Z's are irreducibles and Y is contained in Z. And now you order this set by this inclusion, and in order to apply Zorn's lemma, you will have to check that this ordered set is inductively ordered, and therefore it will have maximal element, and the maximal elements will be
Sir,
precisely the.
sorry to disturb you. You have at least 40 more minutes.
Fine. Thank you.
4 p.m. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. So simple John's lemma will tell that there are maximally reducible subsets which will contain Y. So these prove the next sentence. And irreducible components are closed already, I have remarked. Okay, so irreducible components do exist in a topological space. X is the union of irreducible components. The connected components are unions of some of the irreducible components, not all, but it may have more than one irreducible component. All right, so these are simple things. You have to go chew over it, think about it, and it will be clear. And you don't even need any other reference material. My writing should be enough to check everything. All right, next one, irreducible components of the spectrum. What are the irreducible components of the spectrum? They are precisely V of P, where P runs over the minimal elements in the spectrum with respect to inclusion. That means their P's are minimal prime ideas in A. So this follows. Now we have to type up. We have checked that VP is irreducible if and only P is a point in the spectrum. And by one of the things is P belong to the minimal if and only this is a maximal, because it is inclusion reversing. This V is inclusion reversing, and therefore it's a maximal irreducible subset in the spectrum. There is no more you can go on because this P is minimal. So irreducible component corresponds to the minimal primes. So I'm sure in the first chapters of Atiyah McDonald, you are studying localization, minimal prime, primary decomposition, and so on. So this is, I thought of just recalling this because we are in this new setup language. Next corollary, every prime ideal in A contains a minimal prime ideal in A. So that also included. So this is easy. So we therefore proved that, now look at this corollary. Every prime ideal contains a minimal prime ideal. So this is completely algebraic statement. So we have proved this algebraic statement as a consequence of this topological statement. So we have proved algebraic statement on the ring A by using a geometric property of the spectrum. And we also should prove the other way. Other way, actually, we have proved earlier also, but now few more I will indicate in the next few pages. Now, let A be a ring, and then the spectrum, prime spectrum and the maximal spectrum are quasi-compact. Now, quasi-compact means normally one calls the topological space quasi-compact if every open cover has a finite subcover and no T2 assumption. In general, when one calls it compact, that means one assumes also that the topological space is T2, Hausdorff. But we don't have that assumption, almost never, I think. So therefore, the terminology is quasi-compact. So why is that? So now it is enough to prove that covering property. What do I mean by this? That means if I have, what do we have to prove? They are quasi-compact. So we have to prove that every open cover has a finite subcover. So in that open cover, so I will take that each element in that open cover, each open set in that open cover, and that open cover is union of these basic open set. So I will add all the basic open sets and assume that the open cover I started was consisting of basic open sets. And therefore I have to prove that basic open subsets which cover the spectrum has a finite subcover. So therefore the spectrum is covered by whole DFIs. These I is some indexing set. And I want to prove that there is a finite subset here. So that finitely many those corresponding to those, they cover the whole spectrum. But what does this mean? Remember, I have checked that this is whole spectrum if only this ideal is a unit ideal. But this means one belongs here. So one will be a finite combination of these FIs. That means in that finite combination, only finitely many indices will appear. So therefore, that those FJs will also generate a unit ideal because they already contain that combination. Therefore, one will belong here, and then again, so it's simple. So you see, having a unit element in the ring is very, very, very important. So then the same proof you can show for this also, the maximal spectrum. So I didn't write it, but the same proof, because if you write maximal spectrum here, that means there is no maximal ideal which this ideal contains. Therefore, same argument. So some easy consequences of this: every closed subset of the spectrum is quasi-compact, because every closed subsets look like this, and that one is in bijective correspondence with the spectrum of the residue class ring. And this is not only bijective, this is also continuous. So this is actually homeomorphism. So every closed subset is also of the form spectrum of some other ring, namely residue class ring. So therefore, again by this, it's quasi-compact. Similarly, basic open set is quasi-compact because basic open set DF that correspond to the spectrum of the A localized at F. Localized at F means it is localized at the multiplicative set generated by F, that is 1, F, F square, and so on. And this map, there is a natural map here. This is also bijective. This is where chapter 3 at A. McDonald, you have studied localization and ideal structure and prime ideal structure when you pass from a ring to its localization. So that shows that this is a bijection, and not only a bijection, this is actually a homeomorphism. Therefore, DF is also quasi-compact. In general, not every open set in the spectrum is quasi-compact. You can find an example. It's good to find an example. These are very special basic open sets. These are very special open sets called basic open sets. Now the next concept, Noetherian topological spaces. So these also I have written some of them in the supplement. So topological space is called Noetherian if every open subset of X is quasi-compact. So here, remember here, I ended this page with, in general, not every open subset of the spectrum is quasi-compact. Here, therefore, we need to define when that happens. When does every open set is quasi-compact? Those topological spaces are called Noetherian. You will see soon why are they called Noetherian. Then the following statements are equivalent. Noetherian. The second one is every subspace of X is also Noetherian. This is trivial. Some implications are trivial. The open subsets of X satisfy the ascending chain condition. And once you have open sets and ascending chain, then 3 prime is every non-empty family of open sets contains a maximal element with respect to inclusion. Fourth, when you have statement in a topological space about open sets, you should have statements about closed sets. The closed subset satisfies descending chain because complements will make ascending to descending. Similar to the statement 3 prime is 4 prime. Every non-empty family of closed sets contain a minimal element with respect to the inclusion. I again leave it for you to check this equivalence. As I said, many are trivial. Only 1 or 2 you will have to check, and that will be very easy. And remember one thing, if your proofs are pages and pages, you start doubting. whether you are writing in a correctly or not, or unnecessary. So that is one test. When you write your proofs, they should not be long. All right, proposition. A Noetherian space, a Noetherian topological space has only finitely many irreducible components, and hence finitely many connected components. This assertion, you can prove it by using so-called principle of Noetherian induction. Try to do this. I want to add this as a simple exercise in the next assignment. So if you don't get it, anyway, we will have to discuss in the next assignment. That's why I have not written it here. I will write it afterwards. All right. Now, what is this? Now, where this proposition describes when is exactly the spectrum of a ring is Noetherian topological space. So, spectrum of A is Noetherian topological space. Second one, the radical ideals in A satisfy the ACC. 3, every ideal A in A, for every ideal there exist finitely many elements such that V of A is V of that finitely many elements, which is intersection. This is not serious, the middle one, but the extreme. 3 prime, for every ideal A in A, there exists, now this is just a complement, taking the complement. That's why 3 prime. 4, for every ideal A, there exist finitely many elements, so that the radical of A is the radical of the ideal generated by F1 to Fn. I wrote in this format because this will lead to many questions which are not yet answered. So the spectrum is Noetherian is equivalent to saying the radical ideal satisfies ACC. If ideals satisfy ACC, then the radical ideals will also satisfy ACC, because radical ideals are subset of ideals. And we have noted Noetherian. So therefore, it is immediate that when do we call a ring to be Noetherian? We have already defined. But that means, in other words, that means the set of ideals, all ideals in A satisfies ACC. So therefore, if A is a Noetherian ring, then its spectrum is also Noetherian topological space. But the converse is not true in general, because you can find rings whose, for example, Noetherian spectrum is singleton. Not Noetherian. For example, the prime spectrum is singleton, but that may not be finitely generated ideal. You would have seen such examples, I suppose. You can also look at infinite Boolean rings, or some other easy ring would be like K power I, where K is a field and I is a infinite set. All right. So if it is if the spectrum is Noetherian, then definitely we know that A has finitely many minimal prime ideals, because this is a Noetherian topological space, and therefore it has finitely many irreducible components. But we have checked the irreducible components correspond to the minimal primes. Therefore, they have to be finitely minimal. So to conclude that A has finitely minimal primes, it is enough to assume that the spectrum is Noetherian. Also, if the spectrum is Noetherian, then the spectrum has only finitely many connected components. That is, the number of irreducible components are finitely many, therefore connected components will also be finitely many, because connected components are actually fewer than the irreducible components. And these complements, This is not the word complementary. These components, these connected components of a finite union of a open irreducible components. That is because finitely many, and it is a union of finitely many. Therefore, the remaining one is a closed one. All right. If spectrum is Noetherian, then it is locally connected. That is also clear because DFs are, the basic open sets are also Noetherian. If spectrum is Noetherian, then the basic open subsets are also Noetherian. And they correspond to the spectrum of some ring. So that means that's connected. And so, so therefore, this is also clear. Now the question comes, interesting question is, when is the spectrum connected? When is the spectrum connected? This is written in the supplement 1. That will also be listed as exercise, I suppose. But there is a nice answer. That means that I have not written it here, but you can see it in the supplement.
Sir?
Yes.
So is there any notion of path connectedness in this Zariski topology?
Path connected in every topological space notion.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that how that ring character characterize the path connectedness of that topological space. Means properties of ring, how can catch the path connectedness of that space?
So that would be more difficult because your space, what the space, the spectrum is not in general T2.
Yes, yes.
So it will be difficult to describe. What you are asking is how do you describe pi1, for example?
Yes, yes.
Of course, the concept exists, but these are more difficult questions. You need more geometry to study this.
Okay, okay.
And one should not ask this question for general commutative ring, but one should ask only for nice rings like finite type algebras over a field, or finite type algebras over special fields like complex numbers and so on.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so this is a serious issue. What question you are asking doesn't make, it may not have good answer for general ring, but it makes a good question for special type of rings, which also are studied more from the analytic point of view, or what is called the topology of algebraic varieties, that things. Anyway, we will not go into that in this course, I think. All right. Now, as we say, I'm going to do dimension theory. That was what the plan was. Now it starts here. So far, it's only a warm-up. Now dimension, I want to define a dimension. And when we come to definition, why that definition comes, where does it come from? That's what I want to explain in the next few pages. So notation will be very useful. Let X less equal to be an ordered set. I hope everybody understands what I mean by this. This ordered set, normally in the present books which are written after 1960, they are awful. So one should go back. Ordered set, popularly also known as partially ordered set, POS, POSET. But if you see, partially doesn't, the word partially is not required there, because if you say partially somebody, then what is that? So then I went back to a book by Hausdorff, which was written in 1904. Hausdorff. There he defined it correctly, the ordered set, ordered. And what is an ordered set? Ordered set is a pair, X and less equal to. And order, what is an order? That is a relation which is reflexive, antisymmetric, and transitive. These are called, these relations are called orders, and this set is called ordered set. Typical examples we have been dealt with. Ideals with inclusion, prime ideals with inclusion, maximal ideals with inclusion, irreducible subsets with inclusion, or power set with inclusion, they are all ordered sets. They are not well ordered, but they are ordered sets. Oh, and if you have a chain in an ordered set, what is a chain? Chain is a total ordered subset. That means any two elements are comparable in this C. And what is, I am defining the length of C. Length of C is the cardinality of C minus 1. And I don't want to think about hierarchies of the cardinal numbers, but I only want to think finite or infinite. And minus 1 also I want to add. So this whatever is on the right side, think of it as either a natural number, that is when C is finite, or it is, if C is empty, it is empty set doesn't have, so 0, so it's minus 1, or it is not finite, then you think of it as infinite, this symbol. A finite chain of length n is usually denoted by this C0, C1, Cn, and not equal. So that is the length of a chain I have defined. What is the length of the partially ordered set? Now you take supremum and take the chains in X and take their lengths. So that means in that ordered set X, try to find a chain of arbitrary length, bigger and bigger and bigger and supremum. And it might happen that the supremum is maybe infinite. So this length of partially ordered set is minus 1 when X is empty, because there is no chain there. And it's self-explanatory. It can be finite also. You will see some examples. For example, what did we do? If you have a vector space over a field K, then look at all subspaces of V that are denoted SKV, and this inclusion. This all subspaces with inclusion. This is an ordered set. And this ordered set, what is the dimension? That is the maximal length of a chain of K subspaces. When we have a subspaces and you try to find a bigger and bigger and bigger chain of length. So if your vector space is finite dimensional, this will, because what will be the maximal length? Maximal length will be all will be one dimensional bigger than the previous one. So that will precisely, the length will precisely will give you the dimension of the vector space. So length of these subspaces, ordered subspace, ordered set, that is precisely the dimension. Okay, so we have seen the dimension of a vector space is the length of that ordered set consisting of all subspaces. So this already actually gives us a clue what should be the dimension of a ring or of a spectrum. So what do we want to do? We would like to assign a number, and when I say number, that could be a natural number or minus 1 or infinity to each spectrum or a ring, and we will see that whatever number we attach to the spectrum, that will be the same number to the ring, or even to a topological space, in such a way that these assignments of assigning the number satisfy some reasonable properties which our intuition leads us to expect. So what are the desirable properties? So V going to dimension V, and V is either sometimes I will say algebraic set, or maybe better to say it's a closed set in the spectrum. So for example, dimension of the spectrum of the polynomial ring or a field should also be dimension of the maximal spectrum of the polynomial ring. Also should be the dimension of K power n. K power n is also subset there. So that should be n. Second, if V the finite union of closed sets V1 to Em, then the dimension should be the supremum of this finitely many. And where is this intuition is coming from? This supremum is the maximum actually, because these are finitely many subsets. This based on the intuitive idea, finitely many points do not make a curve. Finitely many points and curves do not make a surface, and so on. So that means finite union, we should go to sup. If I take finitely many curves and their union, the dimension should be 1 because it will not go up by this intuition. Similarly, the points, finitely many points will have dimension 0. All right. What is the third expectation? That is, if V is irreducible, and suppose W is a proper closed subset of V, then the dimension of W should drop. It cannot be equal. Fourth one, if dimension of V is positive, then V contains a non-empty closed set W of 1 dimension less. And what is the intuition here? There are points on the curve, curves on the surface, and so on. These are the intuition that we have been using it in our earlier subjects, geometry, without explicitly mentioning it. What is, okay. So these are 4. What happened to one of my page? One of my page is missing. Here, 5. Order is misordered. If V is,
Excuse me, sir.
sorry.
Yeah. Why is the first condition is desirable? I mean, what is the intuition behind that?
Where? Here.
Yeah, this one.
You see, dimension of the spectrum of the polynomial ring.
Yeah.
That should be dimension of the polynomial ring.
Yeah.
And polynomial ring in n variables over a field should have dimension n. Because this will correspond in some sense to this k power n. No, special maximal ideal there will be like k power n. The points in k power n will give you the maximal ideals. All right, but anyway, you will see that is okay. So what is the fifth condition? Fifth desirable condition is if V is a subset of the spectrum of the polynomial ring in n variables and D the dimension of V, positive dimension, then for most hypersurfaces, hypersurface means V of a single polynomial, capital F. Then when I intersect V with F, the dimension drop exactly by 1. This is not true for all hypersurfaces, but most, many of them. For example, if you have a circle in the plane, then the most lines will intersect circle in points. Okay, dimension will drop by 1. It will not be. I think I gave a wrong example. For if you have a line, and if you take another line, most lines will intersect with this given line to a finitely many points. That is this. 6, if U is a dense open set in V, then the dimension should be equal. 7, if D is the dimension of V, then there are exactly D independent functions on V. 8, if D is the dimension, then we have exactly D degrees of freedom on V.
Sir?
Now we have these desirable properties that we expect our dimension should satisfy. But you see, yes.
Sir, will it mean that if V is union of some sets and like if V is any closed set and it's a union of some sets, then its dimension is maximum because the circle will intersect at the line will intersect. No, the line will intersect the circle at 2 points.
Yes.
So that in some sense, the dimension will be the maximum of the dimension of the union, or kind of that.
No. You're talking about which property?
Property number 5. You gave an
Property
example
number
of a
5 is very simple. See,
okay.
For most lines, when you intersect circle with the line, the dimension should drop by 1. So circle is not a good example, as I said. Suppose you take bunch of lines.
Okay.
And you take any other line.
Okay.
But for these line, but for finitely many lines, the dimension will drop by 1.
Okay.
Okay. See,
Okay.
See, you have to go to higher dimension to realize this property, because D is, suppose you have a surface. You have a surface, the 2 dimension.
Yes, sir.
And you intersect with the hypersurface. The hypersurface is a plane.
Yes, sir.
So the most planes should intersect your surface with the curve only.
Yes, sir.
That is this property.
And okay.
So you can cut by you can choose hyperplane properly. So when you cut it, the dimension will drop.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And now
and one more thing, sir.
Yes.
In the property number 1.
Yes.
Did we this holds for a K to be an algebraically closed field?
Not necessary.
So is it for any field?
Yes.
Okay, but the intuition comes from algebraically closed. Is it also?
Even intuition comes from real numbers also.
Okay.
All right. Now with this, yes.
And sir, you wrote something dimension Kn as you are treating dimension as a vector space or something else?
No. See, remember here, my notation is very, very careful. What did I write here? Dimension of a vector space is capital D.
Okay.
And this dimension is what? Dim, small d. I want to define that.
Oh, okay.
I want to define that. And remember this K power n, you can think it is a subset here in the spectrum.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that everybody should remember the dimension. Dimension of a ring or dimension of a topological space, I will denote by small DIM, and dimension of a vector space henceforth, or even in the supplement, I would have written capital DIM. Okay. So these are the 8 properties. Now, what do you want to show? In few minutes, I will show you that the properties 2, 3, and 4 will already determine a unique dimension function. And it will give us a definition. And that definition will be precisely what is known as Cool dimension. And the remaining properties will be theorems for us to prove that they are true. For example, one of them will be normalization lemma and things like that. So let us now first prove that 2, 3, 4 will determine the unique dimension function.
Sir, are there any properties of dimension which don't hold?
Sorry?
You mentioned some desirable properties. Are there some desirable properties which do not work out for Krull dimension?
Desirable properties which do not work out. So you can name any property. You can say every ring has infinite dimension.
Okay.
That is not, I mean, you may say it is desirable, but it will not work out. See, that is easy, more easier to say. What is more difficult to list is what is desirable. What do you want? And what does your intuition say? Intuition comes from the earlier study.
Okay.
Like point, nobody defined for you when you are in a college or school, wherever, dimension of a point is 0, right?
Yes.
Or dimension of a line is 1. So we'll say line, or you say curve with a dimension 1, right? Without a proper definition.
So old ideas we have of dimension, they are completely captured here, or is there anything which
No,
has,
old idea of dimension is what?
like intuitive idea of dimension?
Yes. Intuitive idea of dimension, I told you the vector space dimension, you got the idea.
Yes.
You choose one element which is
Yes.
non-zero, take a subspace generated by that.
Yes.
Then you, if it already equal to V, then you stop there. If
Okay.
not, you choose a vector which is outside this one dimensional.
Okay.
And generate a subspace
Yes.
with the first one and this vector. And keep doing this. You are going to get bigger and bigger chain, no?
Yes, sir.
If it stops,
Hmm.
take the length of the chain as a dimension.
Okay.
If it doesn't stop, goes on, infinite.
Okay.
Okay. Is that clear? You can clarify any question. I would be very happy because I don't want to start with a definition. Of course, I would have started with the definition. This is the definition, this is the due to Krull, and this is what we work on.
Excuse me, sir.
But my intention here was to show why did Krull think that and how it is right. Yes.
Yeah, for vector space dimension, so when you define it as a cardinality of bases, it could be, let's say, countable, uncountable, this kind of things, right?
I already said to you in the beginning, when I say infinite, I don't want to discuss cardinality, either finite or not finite.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Because you cannot make everything complicated at once. You have to do one by one. That also can be done, but these methods will not be sufficient. All right. So now is it clear? Now I want to show you that 2, 3, 4 are already enough that they will determine a unique dimension. Now, because my pages are mixed up, okay, where do I start?
Sorry, sir, what do you mean by unique dimension? What do you mean by unique dimension?
You see, think of this as a function.
Okay.
And this function, if it satisfies property 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we will prove that now. All right. So where is it? Okay, here is the proof. So remember, if I have a topological space X, which is Noetherian, for example, X is a spectrum of A, and A is a Noetherian ring, then I am going to denote IRR CX here. These are the irreducible closed subsets in X and with respect to infusion. This is my ordered set. Okay. So start with, and now we have fixed the spectrum, let us say, and suppose I have a dimension function. V going to dim V. I am calling it dim. V is non-empty, then dimension is bigger or equal to 0. If V is empty, then we have noted dimension has to be -1. And suppose it satisfies the property 2, 3, and 4. Then what happens? Because A is an Noetherian ring, then every closed set V in the spectrum is a finite union of closed irreducible subsets in the spectrum that we have seen. So it's a finite union like this. And these are, each one of them are irreducible and closed. Finitely many because we are assuming Noetherian. Therefore, 2 by 2, you can find at least one of them. So that dimension V has to be dimension V0. I chose them to be V0 by renumbering. Now, if dimension V0 is 0, we are already stopped here. If dimension V0 is positive, then by 2 and 4, you can find a closed irreducible subset V1 contained there, so that the dimension of V1 drops by 1. This is that intuition 4, that if you have a V, when you cut it by 1 hypersurface, then the dimension will drop exactly by 1. Therefore, by induction on D, by induction on this D, there exists a chain of closed irreducible, keep doing it such that at each stage dimension has dropped by one. So dimension of Vi is d minus I for every I equals 0 to this. On the other hand, if I have given a chain like this of closed irreducible subsets in V, and every stage it is a strict inclusion, then dimension of V will be bigger or equal to dimension, because this is a subset here, and each time it will increase by 1. This is by 2 and 3. Therefore, where is my next page? Therefore, if we insist on properties 2, 3, and 4, then we have to make the following definition. We have no other way. What is the definition? Dimension of V equal to supremum of R such that there is a chain of length R of closed irreducible subsets in V. And note that when this is empty, there is no R, then we have to put dimension to be minus. So we have no other way. So therefore, that leads to this definition. What is the definition? This is due to Krull, and it's called Krull dimension. So what is the now arbitrary topological space? The length of this ordered set, irreducible closed subsets in X. This is by definition, as I told in the beginning, this is the supremum of the lengths of the chains in these irreducible closed subsets in X. This is called the Krull dimension of X and is denoted by dmax. Now let's see what happens to this definition when you take A to be a ring and X to be a spectrum. That is called the Krull dimension of A. Now we have checked. So what is the dimension of the spectrum? That is length of the spectrum. That means it is the supremum of M, so that there is a chain of irreducible closed subsets in the spectrum. But we have seen the irreducible closed subsets in the spectrum, they correspond to the prime ideals, and this chain will get reversed. So therefore, this is also same as supremum of chains of the points in the spectrum, this prime ideals. But that is the dimension of it. This is the dimension of A is defined. So now is it clear why this definition? So now, if I would start my commutative algebra course and I don't give this preamble, this is the definition. This is called the Krull dimension of the ring.
Now, should it be like the chain of prime ideals in A, not in spec A?
Should the prime ideals of what?
Yeah, there exists a chain P0 strictly containing and so on. In this next line from the bottom, second line from the bottom.
I didn't get your question.
The second line from the bottom.
Second line, yeah.
So P0 contained in A.
P0 contained in P1, is it?
Yeah, P0 strictly containing P1 and so on, strictly containing PM in A. Should it be
in A? You want to write in A, but I want to, where are these points?
No, you're considering them as prime ideals, right?
Yes, but the chain is in the spectrum. Anyway, if you want to write in A, fine.
Sir, will this coincide with maximal chains?
Sorry?
Will this definition coincide with maximally strictly increasing chain of like?
Some of your words are redundant because maximal is what?
Maximal, like we cannot add anything more in the chain.
If you can add, then that is also an element. Yeah. That is also chain here. No, you're taking supremum over all.
Yeah. Taking supremum over length. No? Okay.
See, if you have given the chain and you want to make it finer, that is also a chain, no?
Yes. So I'm saying
so that will also be a part here.
Yes, I'm saying like if we have a maximal chain, will its length be same as dimension?
If you have a maximal chain, but two maximal chains may have different.
That's what I'm asking, sir. Is it okay? So that is possible, no?
That is of course possible.
Okay. Okay.
R.T.M. McDonald, chapter 1, 2. Okay, fine. That is the definition.
Sir?
Now, yes.
Yes, sir. If we try to compute the dimensions, so we have to consider
computing a dimension is hard, and this is what the next 6 lectures will do it.
Okay.
See, as you see from this definition,
there are a lot of chain can be come in this case.
Obviously. So that shows that this dimension, this definition, though it has come from intuition, it is very difficult to compute. And therefore, we have to prove many theorems which will lead to finding the dimension. It's not clear from this definition that the dimension of a ring is finite or not. Okay?
Yes.
So that is why it is called dimension theory. All right. So we have at least come to a definition of cool dimension. Now let us see few examples. All right. So few examples. So in these examples, I will denote X to be a topological space. Suppose your topological space is singleton or non-empty finite discrete topological space. Then I say dimension X has to be 0. Because what are the chains there of irreducible closed sets? The irreducible sets, closed sets are precisely the singletons in this case. So there is no chain. I mean, there is a chain only which has only one element, that is 0th element. So therefore, dimension has to be 0. More generally, every non-empty Hausdorff space also has a dimension 0. Since the only irreducible subsets of a Hausdorff space are singletons. Therefore, Hausdorff space's dimension is 0. And when I say dimension now, that cool dimension definition of a topological space also. The supremum of the length of the chains of closed irreducible subsets in that topological space. All right. So at least these examples are easy. Now suppose you take X equal to K1, K is an infinite field, and there is a Zariski topology on that. And namely, this, what is the Zariski topology here? The closed irreducible subsets are precisely the singletons or all K. These are the closed sets in Zariski topology in K. So dimension should be 1, and this is the only chain which is length 1. Not only, there are many chains like that as X varies, but all of them have length 1. Every field has dimension 0. Now when I say every field, here I didn't write, here I specified the topology, right?
Sir,
Here,
why is K taken in the chain?
sorry?
Because when you are taking Zariski topology, you are working on the prime ideals, right?
Yes.
So what is this K stands for here? K is the field in your second example.
In a Zariski topology, the whole spectrum is closed or not?
Yeah.
So the whole spectrum is K here, no?
Yeah. So I mean, whole spectrum is essentially single point since this is a field.
This K is a topological space with Zariski topology means this is a subspace. This is a subset of the spectrum of Kx, right?
Okay.
K polynomial X. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
I wrote here K1.
Yeah.
This is, think of this K as a subset of the spectrum of the polynomial ring in one variable over K. And this K has a induced Zariski topology from that. Either you think that, or on K directly you think there is a Zariski topology. And what are the K1? That means the closed sets are precisely V of a polynomial in one variable. Right?
Yes, sir.
So V of 0 polynomial is whole K. So,
Sir, is this your last slide?
yeah, almost.
Okay, because now we need to give a little break and then start.
No, this is the last one.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
All right. So, when I say here every field at dimension 0, this looks contradictory to 2 and 3. I purposely wrote it because now here that field I am thinking as a ring. And what is the spectrum of the field? It has only one point, namely the maximal ideal. That is 0 ideal. So that has dimension 0 because the topological space corresponding to this field is only one element. So it's 0. The ring of integers, or more generally every PID which is not a field has dimension 1. That is because every non-zero prime ideal in such a PID is maximal. So a chain will start with 0 prime ideal and it will go to the next prime ideal which is maximal, which does exist because I am assuming my PID is not a field, and therefore, and then it will stop there. So every chain will have length at most 1, and exactly 1, not more. Therefore, PID has a dimension 1. Now, particular cases of PID is a polynomial ring over a field in one variable, or a power series ring over a field in one variable. Both these are PIDs, and therefore they have dimension 1. Among both the PIDs, I will show you in my later lecture, the power series are better. All right. Dimension of the polynomial ring in n variable is bigger equal to n. We want to prove actually it is equal to n. But what right now follows is it's bigger equal to n. And why that? Because there is a chain of length n, namely this chain. 0, ideal generated by x1, ideal generated by x1, x2, ideal generated by x1, x2, xn. The chain has length n. All are prime ideals in this ring. Therefore, the spectrum has the dimension is n. Equality holds, but needs a proof. That will be our theorem. If I take polynomial ring in many variables, numbered indexed by natural numbers, countably many variables over a field, then it already has a dimension infinite, because if you look at the chain, C is Pn, where Pn is generated by x1 to xn. There is a chain here, which is infinite chain. Therefore, it has a dimension infinite. If A is Noetherian, then the dimension is maximum of dimension of the residue class ring A by P, where P is varying in the minimal primes. This is also clear because these P's will correspond to the irreducible components of the spectrum, and we have seen that the topological space and its irreducible finitely many, therefore the dimension will be the maximum. So with this, we note that dealing with dimension, computing a crude dimension is not an easy affair. So we have to find alternative ways to compute it. And what we are going to do is, I'm going to specialize, I'm going to concentrate on some special class of rings. So obviously, we don't want to deal with all commutative rings, because if you just say any commutative ring, there are commutative rings whose dimension is not finite. And there are also rings which prime ideal structure is not very well behaved, and maybe they are not interested, they are not interesting enough from the geometric point of view. Therefore, in the first 1 or 2 lectures, I am going to assume my rings are very geometric. That means they are finite type over a field, or finite type over a Noetherian ring. Such assumptions I will make. and then we will study this dimension, or I will assume the rings are local, and thing like that. And that is how we keep collecting information. And arbitrary commutative rings, we will not bother so much. Especially the pathological examples of commutative rings, we will not bother. I'm saying this because probably I was trained like that, and therefore and moreover, not only that, moreover, there are enough number of questions still very interesting, still very open, still their answers are not known for the class of ring that I was saying, either a finite type algebra over a field or what is called complete local rings. So that those kind of rings we will concentrate, and there are enough number of problems to deal with, and also advantage is we will have a geometric intuition along with us. All right, so with this I would stop. If anybody has question, a few minutes I will take.